As a second-generation Vietnamese Cambodian American and a child of war survivors, there are gaps in my knowledge and understanding of my ancestral roots. Somehow, much of the art, the culture, the history never reached me. So this is my way of learning, growing, and healing through community. Being a child of war survivors and being Southeast Asian, there's a lot of money wounds, right? And being an entrepreneur is not an easy journey, let alone having trauma, intergenerational poverty mindset. What was that journey as an entrepreneur and reaching success?
Well, the journey itself, I think one of the things that I think that our elders, my parents, my grandparents, that gave us from that refugee story, that immigrant story, is one, having perseverance, having that strong work ethic, um, knowing to work hard. So that was the positive side. The other stuff that I think that this generation has improved upon is also is being more vocal, being more visible, learning how to articulate and communicate a lot better. Not always having to be invisible, not always not always having to fit in. So I think what helped is that you, we get to utilize both perspectives and both approaches to help us navigate through everything because we are our ancestors' energy, right? We are our ancestors' experiences. And we can't take that away because it's a new time frame, it's a new era. And I think that if we can incorporate all the dynamics of the different generations, it would help our journey. Because yeah, we want to be more visible, we want to be more vocal, we want to be more activist, and we want to go ahead and address some of our trauma and everything. But then at the same time, we can learn from our elders, hey, sometimes you do have to be responsible for your own actions. You do have to have some grit. You do have to be able to persevere, have some endurance. And sometimes you just have to work hard versus just trying to avoid that particular issue of working hard. So I think that being able to just incorporate all that is helpful. Yeah.
This reminds me of one of the just the energy that I experienced when I first spoke with you. The mindset that you have of not letting anything stop you
Yeah.
from achieving whatever it is that you want. Like if someone tells you no, you're going to figure it out. So I would love for you to elaborate on that mentality and how that has served you to where you are today.
Oh no, thank you for the opportunity to discuss that. I think really just from growing up from a generation where we didn't have much, we had to figure it out. We had to figure it out. We didn't have a lot of resources, we didn't have a lot of money, we didn't have a lot of contacts. We didn't have a lot of guidance. There wasn't access to the information. Not to age myself, but I mean, there wasn't Google. There wasn't Google. There wasn't Chat GPT. I think that was dial-up internet until I was like 11th grade in high school.
Wow.
We didn't have a PC. I think we had like a typewriter at the time where you can even make a mistake or you have to start all over.
Wow.
So the dynamics in is different in a sense where you had to figure it out. And because we didn't have the roadmap, we didn't have guidance, we didn't have a mentor, and there may have been successful people, I'm sure, of it from within the community, but we didn't have the tools and resources to connect to them. Right. So the big advantage that we have now is that the access to information and our ability to connect to like-minded individuals, positive individuals, people that could help provide some type of insight to help us is to do. So the only way to really to figure things out is to get started.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't always have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be lined up. I think learning and doing things is the journey in itself. So for instance, we mentioned, like other projects that we started for the community that seemed impossible. Doing like the Lao Boat Racing Festival in the United States, right? Or even having a bill that our community worked on to reach the governor's desk for the first time. We didn't have a roadmap for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We did have access to information, but what the advantage that we had was the mindset to just do.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just do it. Let's figure it out. And it's not always like thinking something where, hey, am I going to fail? What's going to happen? What is going to happen if I don't do it correctly? We just think of it's like, hey, let's do it again. Let's check it out. Let's go do it. And if it doesn't work out, it's more or less just we're doing a trial, like a trial situation. Let's go check it out. But the mindset of just going for it, the prize is actually like the journey in itself is leveling up. It's building that experience, that awareness. That can only come from actually going through the process.
Yeah.
So growing up, I think one of the things that I'm appreciative of from the previous generation, the immigrant generation, the refugee generation, is just that work ethic that they had. The no excuses, the work ethic of just figuring it out, because they didn't have the luxury that we do now of maybe of finding ourselves or figuring it out. They're like, look, I got kids to feed. I got rent to pay for.
Yeah.
I just got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's good too, because that creates the dynamic and the space where you actually have to take action.
Yes.
Yeah. And that in itself, and it's not always going to work out. Nothing's going to work out 100%, and that's completely okay. And I think that being able to take action, that in itself holds a certain value of just kind of thinking about it too much or being afraid to take the first step or overthinking it. Sometimes really just have to take the first step and just do it and see what happens.
Yeah, I appreciate that. What I'm hearing is taking action and just starting and just do and just set aside the fear of failure and by doing you're going to learn, and it's really about the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. It is about the journey. And just for example, like last year, to talk about just a crazy project like the Lao Food Festival, which is coming up, June 22nd, June 23rd. My bestie and I, Bobby, we were having I think yakitori. We're foodies, we love food. We're like, man, we love food and we love Lao food. Wouldn't it be great if we just wish there was more Lao restaurants, wish we had a Lao Food Festival. We're like, because no one wants to do it because they're scared. We're like, then we're like, wait a minute, we're not scared. And what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? We get our friends together, we get our community to show up, and we get Lao food for like the whole weekend.
Yes.
Right? And it does seem impossible. I mean, the audacity to think about, hey, why don't you throw a festival that serves Lao food only, right? What's the audacity in that? But we thought, what, the positive thing about that is, one, we get to learn what it takes to throw a Lao food festival. One, we get to introduce it to new people. We get to meet new people, and we get to learn about the journey itself of throwing a food festival. And we're gonna attract, more than likely, we're gonna attract like-minded people. We're going to attract people that want to learn about Lao food, that love to eat, that love to experience new things. So we looked at it from a positive perspective where only good things could come from it. Yeah. So versus like the initial fear, and I get it, because, hey, what if no one shows up? What if it tanks? What if you get laughed at? So on. But the initial fear of that, we're like, you know what? Only good things come from this because it's never been done before. And in a sense that if we're able to at least open the door to that, and even if we weren't, quote, successful, we would help stimulate others and encourage others to do it again and improve on what we're doing. So really just to take action is really the point of it, is just that we wanted to go through the process just to experience it.
I love that. It takes off, just like you said, the focus on shifting the focus from, yes, you're feeling the fear, and you're also then shifting that to focus, okay, worst case scenario, at least you went through this process, there are learnings from it. You're going to figure out what worked and what didn't work. And the first year, which was last year, how many people showed up?
So at first we were like, hey, 500, 1,000 show up, we're happy. We're good, but we kept building momentum, and the great thing about our team, our LAOSD team, and a lot of our supporters, we're really passionate about it.
Yeah.
We were passionate about it. Shout out to my LAOSD team. I love y'all. It's just they're a group of just passionate, crazy people that wanted to do it.
Yeah.
We expected like, hey, if like 1,000 people showed up, we'd be happy. You know, me about like 9,500 people
9,500
showed up. And what's really special about this festival, about this movement, is that the folks that are coming, the festival goers, the supporters, they're seeking out Lao food, Lao history, Lao culture, right? So it's not like we advertise like, hey, this is a hot dog festival. People were coming, but we're like, hey, this is specifically a Lao Food Festival. And even our vendors also, our partners, our food vendor partners will say, hey, for this particular weekend, I get it, in your menu, you have a showcase of, you might have in your traditional offerings, you might sell other foods besides Lao food. But I said, for this particular weekend, Bobby and I and the rest of our team were like, we just give flowers, long overdue flowers to just Lao food? This particular weekend, can we just focus on Lao food? And I think that there's a lot of dishes that needed to be explored, traditional dishes. The special dishes that you only get at the weddings, at the special family functions, the family gatherings. That's the history of our people. So yeah, 9,500 people showed up. This year we're going to add a carnival to it. We're going to take, we had only part of the park last year. We're going to have the whole park this year. We're expecting about 15 to 20,000 people this year. And we will have more food, I promise. Last year, like, I wanted to say thank you to everyone that showed up last year to support. We get it. The food ran out by like the first day. More people came than we anticipated. The food ran out by like 1 to 2 p.m. We're grateful for the audience that also came back on Sunday to give us a second chance. This year, you won't be disappointed. We get it. We heard all your pain points from last year of not having enough food, the lines were too long, so on and so forth. We heard you this year. We're going to make it up to you. Please come support the festival again. We're going to have more food this year, so bring your appetite.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would love to hear, what is Lao people? Now, I don't like to do generalizations, but Lao people and food. Like, my partner is Lao, so I eat good. That's like a guarantee.
Yeah.
What's the connection, the history with Lao people and food?
That's just what we do, Like, that's what we do. We have this joke also, and I'm glad you brought it. So the things that we love doing, we love to dance in circles. It's lambong, right? That's our national dance, our circle dance. So we love to dance. We love to be around each other. Lao people love being around other Lao people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The reason for that, also, the very basic reason, is there's just not a lot of us, right? So if we're in like San Diego or maybe in SoCal, where there is, quote, a lot more Lao people than average, but for us, a large community is like 7,000.
Wow.
For like a city, right?
Yeah.
Versus like a larger Asian community, maybe 10 times that or 20 times that. So one, for us, because we don't have as much access to our own culture, there's not a lot of Lao people around.
Yeah.
So we do get excited when we get the opportunity to experience our culture, be around our own people. That brings a special element to it. And what I really love about our community, about Lao folks, is that, one, they're really they're funny, they're silly,
yes,
they're sarcastic, they're great at giving backhanded compliments. That's what they do. So one test is like, hey, if they say, oh, I'm into Lao culture, or like, hey, you have a Lao partner, I'm gonna probably ask you, okay, what's your backhanded compliment skills giving? Because that's where you learn from our community. But we just love having a good time. In general, our people are really caring. We're nice. We're laid back. Our favorite saying really in Lao is "bo pen yang," which means like, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, bo pen yang.
Yeah, they're super laid back, and that's what I love. That's what we love. It's just eating, having a good time, hanging out with each other, relaxing. So if you want to hang out with Lao folks, that's what you can expect. Just eating, drinking, dancing, relaxing, partying all the time.
Just getting wild, yes.
So we do Chile, for example, like, and if you want to know, like, for example, Lao New Year. I mean, look, Lao folks, I get it. It can't be going to 3 months. A month is fine. We already have April. We don't need to be going to June also as well. But that's an example.
I mean, you got some ID Fest coming up.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
So we have, a proof of that, what we love to eat and drink and party is that our New Year festival is like 3 months long.
What are, I know we can spend a lot of time and talk about the trauma and talk about the impact, the repercussions. What are some of the good things, right? Because I feel like what you mentioned briefly of, because there's not so many Lao people, when you do run to another Lao person, you're like automatically family, right? There's that instant connection and openness and welcomeness. What are some of the other good things that you've experienced as a result of the life path that you've taken?
As far as just being a Lao American or having Lao heritage, I think, just having one. I'm really honored and proud to be born Lao, like a Lao American. I think, as with anything, when we look at the positive, is that I feel that because we're unique, right? So in a sense, when you're from a smaller community, when you're not as known, is that your culture is a lot more unique.
Yes.
And that in itself is, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's shared. And although it is small and it is sometimes where it's not as representative, it does feel like a large family. So when we go to like the temple, or when we go to our churches, when we go to our festivals, we're probably maybe 1 or 2 people removed from each other. Like, hey, do you know this person? And most likely they probably know our parents. They're probably like our random cousin. And it feels special in that aspect because it does feel like an extended, like a family. Yeah, that's the only way I could describe it. When we meet another Lao person, it literally feels like we're meeting a family member.
I love that. You have had a lot of life experiences. You've taken a lot of risk in your life. You have experienced success and created impact. What do you hope for the future of Lao youth or the Lao community?
I'm really proud of the Lao community so far, the progress that we made in our community in the past 40 years, that we've started from being refugees to turning to immigrants and now like citizens, where they're second and third generations now. I'm really proud in a sense that a lot of our young people, they're really embracing the culture. They're really embracing they're like super Lao. I'm super proud of them. They're listening to Lao music. Yes. They're wearing the traditional clothing. Yes. They love the food. They want to speak the language. They're seeking out Lao culture. So I'm really hopeful about the future in a sense that this generation, they're into self-identity. Yeah. They're aware of their culture. So I really want to give a shout out to the current generation, the next generation, even the kids that are 5-6 years old. You can see that they love being Lao. So I'm really hopeful with that, because I know that with this mindset, and then at the same time connecting them with the middle agers like myself, which is the bridge to the elders, which is like the founding generation. I think that the future is bright. I'm really proud of you. We see more kids now that are graduating from college, graduating from high school, being involved in art, entertainment, military, the profession, in cooking, in cuisine, in Hollywood, in politics, in entrepreneurship. locally, nationally, globally. So I'm super proud of them. Just the next generation. I really want to commend also the next generation is just being aware of mental health, being aware of your time, your emotional intelligence, your emotional energy. So that's one thing that I think that myself, the middle aged generation, and the older generation could learn from the younger generation is to slow down to address your mental health, your mental energy, and focusing on personal healing. So I think that that's something that the next generation can teach the older generation. So I'm proud of them, man. You guys rock. The only thing that I could say is just maybe toughen up a little bit.
Toughen up a little bit.
Toughen up a little bit. Go for it. Go for it. Go out there, get your hands dirty, roll up your sleeves. It's okay to fail. And try to grit through some tough things in your life. And also just know that you don't have to be on the whole time, meaning you don't have to be hot like the whole time. You don't have to be on point 100% the whole time. So it's okay to fail in that aspect, because it's myself where, you know, as one of the first like Lao American real estate brokers, like in California.
Yes, I would. Let's talk about that. Okay. That mindset and like what you had to, some of the challenges that you've had to endure, even with your name. And yes, let's talk about that.
Pida Kongphouthone. So first, I want to apologize to everybody that the reason why I started adding my photo to my tagline in my email, because I want to apologize to everybody expecting Pida to be an Asian female or a Lao female to show up, and then they get me when I show up instead. So I want to apologize to the people that are expecting Pida to be a woman when they show up and to have that disappointment. So I want to apologize for that. But you know, it's really interesting to be first of all, like real estate in itself, it's an interesting profession since there's like an 85-90% failure rate. So it's already like it's
in California too.
It's a really tough industry to be in. The turnover is like I said, almost 90% failure rate, right? So and then being Lao, meaning like we don't have a large population, and then having a funny name. I never changed it on purpose, right? So I'm like, no, I'm not gonna. I was stubborn. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna change my name to Alfred or something, to make it a little bit more mainstream. So the challenge with that, initially I was like, man, people thought I was crazy. I'm like, you're a Lao male trying to be in an industry where you need connections, where you need a large sphere of influence, where our home ownership's not the highest. Why are you doing that? And you know, we're paid on performance. So the thing is, we're business owners. So we're not paid hourly, we're not on salary. It's really based on performance. And I'm going into like my 20th year. So I think that the can-do attitude of just doing, number one, and also believing in yourself and knowing that it's just going through the process and building momentum, building energy, and if you focus on your work and letting your work speak for itself, it'll turn into something special. Would it have been easier, obviously, if I wasn't Lao, if I had like a fancy name and all that? Sure, definitely. But I don't think I wouldn't have had as much grit. I don't think I would have had as much endurance. And I've learned throughout the time where it's just, I have to show up to work every day. And I get the opportunity to help so many people get into being a homeowner for the first time, selling the home for the first time. The joy of helping people go through such a big life moment is important to me. But what I learned from the past 20 years of being in such a difficult and challenging industry is just that you don't have to be hot like year round. You know, there's seasons to everything. So as long as I show up to work every day and I do my part, great things will happen. And what I mean by not having to be on year round is just like only on the internet, only on Instagram, only on socials where people bloom year round, where fruits and trees bloom year round, right? There's a time where you might have a hot streak, and then you might have to rebuild. You know, you might have to create a new crop for yourself, plant seeds, rebuild again. That's really what it's like to be in the industry. And what I learned is just, just fight through the difficult moments. Show up to work, believe in yourself, like trust the actual process. But at the end of the day, you're also responsible for your own success.
Yeah.
So I want to share that with like the younger generation, especially the people that want to be in real estate or entrepreneurship or in the arts or learning to be in entertainment and reaching out to people. It first starts with yourself and wanting to do it. You have to have passion, right? So the reason why I've been able, I think, to last in such a challenging industry is number one, I have passion, I have purpose in my field, or otherwise there won't be continuity. You won't be able to last. Kind of like what you're doing, right? You said we're in front of the camera, we're doing all these things, but it's a lot of work. People don't see all the prep work that you do, the connections that you have to make. And then by the time this is all edited, it looks pretty and polished and everything else. But I think that the hustle that you have, the drive that you have, that's based on just your passion, right? Which is the fuel for everything. So yeah, that's just passion and fuel for it to kind of help you through the difficult moments.
Yeah, the two questions that come up for me as you're sharing your experience and thinking about when you started, the time that you did, working against the odds and being a minority, did you have a role model? Did you have a male figure to look up to? So that's one question. And then the second one, what did keep you going? I know, like, yes, there was the outcome of the result in helping people, but what was like that deeper why in order for you to show up consistently?
Yeah. Well, it's just kind of like it ties into like the community work that we do now with all these like challenging and historic projects that we do that looks crazy on the outside. Is I liked it because it's challenging.
Yes.
It's because in a stubborn way. It's because I was told that I shouldn't be doing it, and that just kind of created a larger attraction for me to do it. So it was like, why are you doing this? Why don't you just get a normal? At the time, I was just wrapping up college at Cal State Fullerton. I was a poli-sci major, so I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing law, or possibly get into some type of social work or government work, where I get to serve the community that way. Then I explored this. I went to go work for the summer. I said, hey, I love this. This is super challenging. Why is everybody quitting? I'm like, that means if I stay and I do this, it has to be. I said, but there's a 20% of the people that are here, they're staying here. I'm gonna hang out with these people that want to stay, that's crazy enough to stay. I'm not gonna hang out with the people that are quitting. I did ask them, why are you quitting? But to be in a group where that's crazy enough to do something where everyone else is failing, like I want to be a part of that group. I was like, okay, I want to be around these crazy people that want to do the things that are the most challenging and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then I think that from doing that gave the mindset of, you know what, it's possible. If someone else could do it, there has to be a way. There has to be a process to it. And if it hasn't been done, let's get with a group of people that's crazy enough to find a way to figure it out, to get it done. So that's what started everything else for me. It's just like, hey, if I could survive an industry that has an 80-90% failure rate with a funny name, with a funny Lao name, with a small community, with low home ownership, there's nothing else that I can't do. And my male figure, one of my mentors, like my largest one, is obviously my grandma and my dad. And my mom. So these three that held the family down. It's just, they obviously, from a refugee mindset, their education from Laos obviously didn't matter, right? It didn't matter. They had to learn a new language and learn a new culture. But what I learned from them is just their crazy work ethic. Just their work ethic. My grandma, for example, she was already like 60 when she came, right? And being from her, she was like one of 13 kids. She was like one of the eldest. She had to take care of her. She didn't even go to elementary school. So my grandma didn't have an education. What I learned from her, she landed in the United States. I had the honor and pleasure of hanging out with her. The moment she landed in our backyard, she started planting her garden, started making her sauces, started recycling. And at that time, as you know, being 3, 4, 5 years, I didn't realize what was happening. I was hanging out with her the whole time, and she was just hustling. She started creating her own empire from just grit, you know, and just from doing.
Yes.
Yeah, I would walk with her. She would go sell like her, which I thought was weird at the time, but I appreciate it now. Her hustles, like sell her veggies. She would go up to the stores and start selling her veggies, her sauces. You know, she would go recycle. No, so that was my first introduction to that. And then my dad, who had to wake up like at 4 a.m. in the morning, for this man woke up from like 4 a.m. for like 40 years straight. You know? Rarely missed a day. So, and then my mom obviously taking care of us and going to work also at the same time. So just watching that, I knew nothing but having a strong work ethic.
Yeah.
So to me, I was like, I didn't know anything else besides doing that. So that's what I learned from them. So anything else compared to that would seem small to me. Yeah. So I'm like, wait a minute, if my grandma, who didn't speak English, who didn't have an education, could do all this. My grandma had cash. I mean, she would flex. She would have a flex. She would have this. You might have this in like the Khmer and the Vietnamese community also, with the grandmas, they had this vest with like a zipper in the stomach. My grandma had cash. Whenever she would just bring off from her hustle.
Wow.
You know, and my folks too, just being able to, from like a minimum wage salary, support 2 kids, and then by their 4th or 5th year in the United States, they bought a house.
Wow.
I mean, how do you even do that? Wow. So seeing these people that were doing the impossible growing up, yeah, of course, they didn't have the opportunity to go to college or do all these other fancy things, but just the grit of just them figuring out. I mean, who buys a house after arriving in the United States for like 5 years? Like, it doesn't.
That seems like an anomaly.
Yeah, that's just like, and they bought it, and they did it from just working hard, from saving, from hustling, from working. So that has what gave me the foundation to just do everything else. I'm like, man, like the bar is so high. I'm like,
yeah.